So again, in this real quick, I'll be quick with it to not bore the people who have already heard this. But in this document that I found, we're looking at slaves between these years. So as we're going through, we see the free slaves, free folks, or whatever, free slaves. My bad. We see the free folk. But when you start to get in here, go a little bit further down, you start to look at people that start having ages recorded. You have one person that has just one slave that's a Negro girl of age 13. You got another person. They have a man named Peter and a Negro woman. Doesn't say the ages, but man and woman doesn't mean, it depends on the age, because right here they call the woman Priscilla at 16. Here it was a girl at 13. So now we kind of got an idea. I guess maybe womanhood to them is 15, 16 or something, right? And maybe now that I think about that, that's starting to make sense. What age can you legally get married to a girl in Arkansas? It says 17. I thought it was that state, that one of those states that back in the day, and then maybe they changed it, or maybe it's a different state. But what I was going to get to is, like, you have states with those old laws that you can marry like a 15-year-old or something, right? So if this is recording people that you're a woman by age 16, you're a woman by age 15, we'll see if 15 pops up, but you're a girl by age 13 still, it starts to make sense on their little laws thing. Like, oh, okay. Like, that's where y'all get that whole 15-year-old, she's a woman, blah, 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 which 18, should be and is always now. But right here, you got somebody that owns just a 9-year-old Negro boy. Where'd you get a Negro boy from? And why would you choose just a 9-year-old Negro boy? How much work can a 9-year-old Negro boy do for you that you would pay money for him, expensive money? Somebody would say, well, they can groom him, and he would be in a few years, he would be, whatever. Well, now you got to support this 9-year-old slave with food and shelter and all this other stuff. That's coming out your pocket until he's of an age where he can really do for you in the fields like that. At 9 years old, he can fetch stuff. He could be a little houseboy, get a little something, clean a little something. But come on now. What is a 9-year-old doing as your only slave? A Negro woman and a male child. Now, that Negro woman could be a 17-year-old or 18-year-old woman with a child. We'll show. Like this, a Negro woman of 19 years old and a child of 2 years old. Where did they get these, and why would they choose these slaves? Why would these be the only choices as slaves? Say $600 in 1800s is crazy money, right? Said change the date. Says a 14-year-old girl, 14-year-old or 15-year-old girl, and that's their only slave in 1823. You got a 50-year-old woman, a 28-year-old woman, then you got a 9-year-old girl, boy, and a 3-year-old girl. So the women and children is what you got there. A 30-year-old man. Now that is what you should see as the norm. Somebody bought a 30-year-old man to get out there and put in that work, right? That's what you should typically see. But you see 11-year-old girls. And that's all you got is an 11-year-old girl. Okay. Then you got others, like women and children. Woman that's 50, a woman that's 50, a 23-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old. At least the 18-year-old and 16-year-old can do a little work. I can at least understand that, but that's not what that's about, though. A Negro fellow slave who's about 25 upwards. Okay, that would be a normal slave. A Negro girl of 13 or 14. A Negro slave for life. And notice how someone, when they say for life, it's like they got to say that. That's the second one I've seen. But at age 14. Oh, there's another one. Slave for life. Age 14, Negro girl. Why why would you just have a 14-year-old? At least 14-year-old somewhat a slave, but that's not prime good slavage age, especially for a little girl. For a little boy, yeah, but okay. Um, well, I guess you just have a clean in the house. But a Negro slave by the name of James, and as we saw many others, a Negro man that don't have a age, a 30-year-old right there. Let me go down a lot further because there's a lot of these. Let me just skip way down just to see if I still see the same pattern randomly. A Negro woman, 22. A Negro gal. A Negro boy slave. Don't know the age, but he's a boy, so that's a young boy. Uh, Certain Negroes know ages. A Negro girl, so we know that's below 13, 14, possibly below 13, 14. Negro girl and a Negro boy, so we know the ages are low. A female slave, about 22 years old. A woman, a female woman, 22 years old. As we notice, there's not a lot of men and men of fighting healthy ages because they likely were unalived in a war. 9-year-old girl, boy, my bad, 9-year-old boy. A Negro, 35 years of age. There you go. Somebody that can actually get out there and put in some work, right? A woman, 25 years of age, 5-year-old, and her 5-year-old, women and children. Rufus, he's 20 years old. A 33-year-old man. A Negro boy of 12 years of age. A boy of 13-year-old age. A 26-year-old girl, 18 years old, named Susan. Now, that's kind of odd that they would call that one a girl. They're just not sticking to the same naming conventions. A Negro slave of 16, 17, and 23, 15. But what it looks like is all of these people are not in prime slave working years. Just think about it. The prime of your life of working is when we work between 18 and goddamn 40 and 60. You know what I'm saying? Is for the most part. That's when we as adults can do the most work. You're not seeing a lot of people of those ages, and if you do, they're going to be women who likely have children. Then you got to ask, where are the men? Where are all the men who are of a good age? And some of them are in here, but they could still be whatever. It says of a dark yellow complexion and sound and bond, whatever. But this thing is full of these, full. Like I'm gonna have to literally go through a bunch of these people. Look, no matter what, randomly, I'm gonna hit on some 11-year-olds and 15-year-olds. Random. Saying it was a 16-year-old. Let's do random. Stop. Out of 151 pages, what? What's the age? As a 30-year-old, okay, bill of sale. No ages. Another name, Mingo, which is an indigenous name, or indigenous word at least. Let's see, 25-year-old. So we got a 10-year-old girl. What you doing with a 10-year-old girl only? A Negro about 12 years old. Like it is not just pages of niggas and their ages of good age. 12 years old. 13 years old, 7 years old, 3 years old with a girl that's 30 years old. That's horrible. This is horrible. This is really starting to make slavery look horrible. But for the right reasons, right? And not that everybody was slaves. No, no, no. But some people were taken as prisoners of war because some people, their parents were no longer around. What happens to those kids whose parents are all just unalived in the wars? What if every tribe can't take those kids in? And you get these YT folks stepping in saying or not even just stepping in, they just did what they did. Just think about it. You go in and you fight a war against some people or whatever. And it's going to be battles between the men typically, right? Women might be out there at times too, and after that, depending on what the victory is, you might raid the town, and maybe you may not raid it, as in like going through ransacking, but you raid it as far as going through establishing slavery amongst people who are there and saying, hey, this land is my land now instead of your land. And if you want a place to stay, well, you're going to have to be my slave. Or there's an abundance of kids out here that need a place to live. Oh, wow, they can come be my slave. I don't know exactly how it happened, but there's got to be there's some reason to this. There's something to this. And I don't know if anybody's ever really looked at the ages of all the slaves. Now, back in the day when I was looking at the ages on the slave schedules, I did, but on the slave schedules, it didn't really have the same effect because, you know what? Let's look. Let's see if there are any. Arkansas slave schedules. Let's see if we can get a visual. Arkansas, Hempstead. We'll do Hempstead. Hempstead County. So, reason why I chose Hempstead is because that was what was listed in that book. Even though it talks about, I think, all of Arkansas, but now let's see if we can get a little bit of a visual. So you got the slave owners. The ink on this one is kind of whack. This person owned a 21-year-old male, 21-year-old female, 12-year-old female, 4-year-old, 2-year-old. And so it's kind of hard here to tell because I don't know if this person is a black person or a white person, right? Because they don't put that here. That I would have to go look that information up. So this could be a black person and their family. Or it could be a YT person and some slaves. Because you got an age 50-year-old female, 23.5-year-old, 40-year-old with a 5-year-old, 28 and 14, 20 and 4, 20, 50. See, these aren't the same because you got these older age, unless they're females, then it's like women and children. So I'm going to have to go look, which they do show that, but these show males and stuff like that. So I literally have to break this down. And I'm also still curious as to where the data came from on the page that I was looking at. But this is also 1850. Now I got to take into account too. Got to take into account this is 1850, not 1820. Let's go back. I got to take into account. And they're not going to have a census for the years that I'm probably looking for with a slave schedule. Hold up. Like these people were owned in, let's say that was 1844, but the years of this, Hempstead County, and this was just Hempstead County. And yeah, that's all. Yeah, I thought it was going to be all of Arkansas. So in Hempstead County, this is going to be between 1819 to 1850. And the reason why I say that is because 1819, well, I guess I should have, there may be slave schedules for the 18, well, they didn't really start doing what's called slave schedules until either 1840 or 50. 1840 and 50, no, 1850. Yeah. I remember because 1840, on one of my people's, their 1840 was not a slave census schedule, and in 1850 it was, and that's where they took it to where you couldn't see that white tea people was on his plantation because of the switch up. But you're not going to see a slave schedule, but you will see a census form that has people listed with tick marks under slaves. So like, I don't know if it had ages. Let me see. 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 Let me do. This is just kind of some real time research. 1830 Arkansas census. It's funny, they said Arkansas Territory, not or just Arkansas. Hempstead Township, not stated. Let's look. Now we're on here. So this is older. Let's go a page forward. Okay. So you got your names here, which are your head of your families. You're not gonna have the races listed. They wasn't doing that then. Well, I mean, no, my bad. You got the race listed. Well, you got the race listed of the people under them. I don't have the race listed of the people that's here. But the race of the people under them are listed here. You got free YT persons playing games. And on the next page, you should have slaves. Okay, we do have ages. We do have ages. I was about to say, yeah, they probably do. I think they have those boxes. So under age 10, under age 10, under age 30, whatever. And females under age. Now, first of all, you got quite a few females. Notice how, yeah, you do have an abundance of people in these columns. Look at that shit. Ain't that a bitch? Between ages 10 to 24, ain't that a bitch? That's most of your motherfucking slaves right there. You got one here, one there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 that's outside the fucking range. Everybody else is goddamn kids. Everybody else is goddamn kids. Oh, and that's the men. The kids over here too. Look, the women. The women. My bad. Because this section for the women are under age 10 and 22, 4, 5, 3, 2, 5, whatever, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1s, 1, 1, 1s, 3, 3, 3s. But over here, you just got a few. Ain't that a motherfucking bitch? Ain't that a bitch? Let's go over here to the slaves. Many of them in the kid category. Almost hardly in the other categories. Ain't that a bitch? Mm. Kid category. Kid category, 5 kids, 5 girls under the age of whatever, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 girls on this page under the age of 10. Under the age of 10. It's fucking sad, dude. Look at that. Everybody mostly in those first 2 columns on both sides. I ain't gonna go through too many more of these. This is sad. Yeah, it's the same. These bitch ass niggas had kids. Now again, I don't know how many of these are. Yeah, heartbreaking it is. They were kidnapping our girls. Yeah, and you know what? Like, there's this story about Louisa Dunn.